Well, hello there, beautiful collective. Welcome into your reading today. Hope you're having a fantastic day today. It is raining here, and I'm actually really appreciating the rain after all of the insane heat that we've been having here. I'm sure it's not much different wherever you are, unless you're in the southern hemisphere where you are getting your winter right now. So it may be your rainy season or it may be your snowy season. But for those of you who are in the Northern Hemisphere, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. Anyhow, welcome in. We're going to do a reading today on finances and financial blocks, kind of getting the energy of where the collective is at with finances. The reason why I'm doing that is because in the last reading, I believe it was, or maybe both of the last two readings, there was a lot coming up in the energy around financial insecurity and material insecurity. So I thought we'd delve into that today and just see what's happening, see what maybe we can do to correct anything that is going on, maybe identify the blockages or the imbalances, and get some advice on how to move through that. Okay. And if I can get my words together, then we're all good today. So just one second, I'm going to have a little drink of water. Okay, so just keep in mind this is a general collective reading. This is not a one-to-one personal reading. So take what does resonate for you, ditch the rest. If it is not part of your story or it doesn't make any sense, then it's not something that you need to keep. Hopefully you don't hear the loud vehicle that was just outside revving its engine. Hopefully that was cut out for you. However, that was a bit distracting for me. So yes, don't fit the story. Don't try to make it fit to your life. If it's not yours, you will know. Trust your gut, trust your intuition. And maybe there's another part in this story that is yours, okay? I will be pulling a lot of cards, more cards today, I feel. So this may be a bit of a longer read. But because it is a general collective reading, that means there's more than one energy coming through. And so, again, using your discernment is going to be very important. All right. So, guys, I kind of want to start with this energy deck and spirit. Let's get the general collective energy around the collective's material and financial um, situation at this moment, at this time. Where's the collective at financially and materially at this time? Door to spirit. Okay. Where's the collective at materially and financially at this time? That one? Okay. Where's the collective at materially and financially right now? Okay. Thank you, spirit. Storm warning. Fourth chakra, Archangel Raphael. Okay. Angel of love. And Magician and the Mirror. Okay. So I'll show you the cards before I tune into them. So Door to Spirit. Storm Warning. Your Heart Chakra, which is Archangel Raphael. Angel of Love. And then Magician and the Mirror. Okay, Spirit, what is the message that you'd like to convey here to the collective? Okay, so the first thing that I'm getting with regards to these first cards here is um, there is definitely financial insecurity and worry. Um, there's a lot of upheaval around material success, material security, I guess we'll say. And a lot of you in the collective right now are feeling burdened, feeling, how are you saying that, Spirit? Hold on one second. Feeling abandoned, to weather these financial storms, or having the idea or the feeling that you're going to be abandoned. So there's some fear around that. Um, Sorry, I'm feeling like I need to do more channeling today, so bear with me in the pauses of silence. I'm just receiving downloads, okay? Yeah, okay. So the biggest thing is that most people in the collective, or at least who's tuning into this, the majority of people, though, in the collective are experiencing some financial upheaval. There is a lot of financial insecurity or material insecurity. That could be your home, your living situation. That could be possibly your vehicle. That could be um, your investment in healthy food or groceries, right? That could be. Um, just being able to pay your bills or your mortgage or to keep the roof over your head. It could be all of the above. But what I'm really getting here is that there is, you are being divinely guided into the storm. You know, we have door to spirit here besides storm warning. And so what I'm really receiving from that is that you're being guided into, as a collective, we are being guided into this financial insecurity because we're being asked to look at possibly some of the ways that we have been associating with money, not just necessarily how we spend it and how we save it or what we choose to do with it, but what are the deeper belief systems within us that are being reflected through this situation. So what's being asked right now is how can you look at this to really understand how it is that you got into this position, but also with a great deal of love and acceptance, right? Because many of us, you know, we've come from all different kinds of situations. Everybody's story is completely different, but because this heart chakra is here, that really does tell me that there is some sort of heart opening that is happening through this situation. That the belief in yourself and that you deserve more than what it is that you've been receiving. You know, not taking breadcrumbs anymore, not settling for anything less than you deserve, not accepting the reality that is outside of yourself. The door to spirit being beside the storm warning means that, you know, we are being guided into this situation for our benefit to show us what it is that we still need to accept within ourselves. So, as a collective, everybody's kind of in this energy where we're being guided into financial insecurity to heal some aspect of our heart. And it is not just, you know, a coincidence that these two came out together, the angel of love and this representation of the heart chakra, because Archangel Raphael is the angel who does work with the heart chakra and who does um, work with healing, right? And we all know that, well, unless you don't know, now you know, that if your emotions are rocky, then your finances are also rocky and vice versa, right? So we're being guided into the storm right now to show us where possibly we need to not only accept where we are and what got us there, but to possibly forgive ourselves, right? A great deal of love is coming through here. So there are aspects of ourselves and our financial past, as well as conditioning and beliefs and what we decide to take on when we're in conversation with other people or what we decide to reject. There's a great deal of healing happening through this financial insecurity. And a lot came out about faith yesterday. I almost considered doing a reading just based on what's shaking our foundations as a collective and what is preventing us from standing in faith, right? So I might do that in the next collective reading. We'll see what the energy is like by that point. But with this magician in the mirror, so for some of you, I'm getting that there were some, there was a feeling, or there is a feeling of some sort of delusional thinking or living in a fantasy, living in a dream world, and expecting something to happen, but maybe there was some sort of course of action that was not taken to strengthen that financial foundation within you. For others of you, what I'm getting is that you were doing all of those things, and but there were some sort of belief structures or thoughts. You know, these would be things that were limiting you, or maybe there was a level of resentment that you were holding on to, or anger, all of these emotions that we hold on to that are producing hatred or anger towards another, or that would lead us to project our feelings, our negative feelings or emotions onto another person. These would be things that would barricade your heart. And when your heart is enclosed in these kinds of emotions, then your ability to attract abundance or opportunities, whether that be in career or job or otherwise, is limited, right? And so for some of you, I'm seeing that with this magician and the mirror card, that for some of you, you were living in, you might have, how do I put that, spirit? It's not necessarily that you were living in an illusion. It's that you wanted to believe something and you feel recently with something that has happened or that is happening that it was a bunch of smoke and mirrors, like an illusion. And for others of you, what I'm receiving is that um, maybe you were living more in a fantasy world, right? Maybe you were creating illusions, or maybe you were taking in information that was clouding your own vision, your own truth or understanding of how things work, right? And how this whole manifestation process works. For others of you, though, what I am getting overall is that you're being led into this storm as an opportunity to teach you how to allow love and acceptance to fully come in and to forgive yourself and others. That's a big theme lately in the collective. And so I'm really getting that heaviness of needing to accept exactly where you are right now, what what part you played in contributing to that, and also understanding that part of these patterns that you carried for so long regarding your finances and your material world were shaped, right? So part of it is taking responsibility for how it is that we got there, yes. And the other part is seeing how that was created. It could have been created in a relationship with another person. It could have been created by some of the decisions that you made or where you invested your money into or your time. It could have been in childhood. I'm not sure if I said that already, but there could have been a lot of different ways in which these patterns were created. And so if we were to look at this from an objective point of view, then we also need to understand that a great deal of forgiveness needs to come in for self, for possibly the way that we have put ourselves in these positions, or hurt ourselves in any capacity with our own financial security or our own material security, right? So, yes, what I am also receiving from Spirit, they're like, don't forget, is that this magician and the mirror is at the end of this because what they're saying is that the magician has all of the elements. The magician has everything that they need in order to make things work, to use alchemy, to use energy, to use their wisdom and their understanding of things to change any situation or scenario around. And given that it came after these two to do with the heart chakra, love, it's a matter of, can you love yourself enough at this point? Can you love and forgive yourself for the choices that you made that got you to where you are right now? And if you can you allow that love to transform instead of living in regret? Because that's what I'm getting a lot. I see in here, it's a pillar that's broken down, but it almost looks like a cup that's spilt over. That's what I'm seeing right now, right? In a stormy ocean. And it feels like with this energy today, there may be a lot of regret coming through for choices that you've made. And so this is being guided so that you have this opportunity to really forgive yourself, forgive your financial mistakes, forgive your financial past, forgive the conditioning that you received by others who possibly didn't have the ability to teach you or the ability to teach you better. Forgive yourself for your naivety. Forgive yourself for any of the mistakes that you've made with regards to this and bring love into the picture, right? So this is kind of either this is going on right now and you're coming to this conclusion right now, or this is happening in the very near future, or this is something that you've been struggling with and struggling with the idea of how to forgive yourself, how to bring that love in. The magician is here to tell you that you are an alchemist, right? You have all of the tools within you to transmute this energy. And this is an energy, anything to do with um, anything outside of yourself as well as within yourself is energy. And so finances and money and material objects and security is no different from the energy that we need to um, raise our vibration to, right? And so it's a matter of, how do we transmute this energy with all the skill sets that we have developed or that we have, whether that be with energy, with our intuition, with our ability to bounce back, our resilience, our strength, with the gifts and talents that we have just in daily life, with our resourcefulness. How is it that we can bring love into this situation to heal and transmute our financial past? And so you may have been working on all of this, or you may have been experiencing this storm, and then moving in to this, self-doubt or this negative thinking or things that are actually blocking your heart. And you're being asked to use all of your skill sets to bring love in and transmute that energy to forgive yourself for, again, your conditioning and your past mistakes. Because, we've all chosen this life at some point or another. We've all chosen to come into this life with the families that we had, into the relationships that we chose, and the dynamics that we chose for ourselves, so that we could eventually heal this pattern financially and bring in the security and the abundance that we truly want. So, okay, I do have some questions with regards to past life. I've got my past life deck here, so I'm going to get a bunch of cards because this is going to be a general reading. So take what does feel right for you when it comes to past lives, and sit with the cards. I mean, if none of them really resonate with you, what I want you to do is think about them throughout the day when you have moments to just sit there in silence and contemplate. And if you think of a card or something, or one of the cards keeps nagging you in a sense, it's in the back of your mind, constantly coming up or coming to the forefront. This is a sign that that is something that is for you, right? So allow it to come forward for you in whatever representation it needs to come forward. But this will give you an idea of possibly where or when these patterns were created to begin with, because again, we carry patterns from our past life into our next lives so that they can be healed. And this is the lifetime where we are being asked to heal many of these patterns, not just generationally within our bloodlines, but for lifetimes, right? So it's all coming to an accumulation. And so I want you to tap in, maybe take a moment now and tap into your own energy, your own spirit guides, and just ask for the discernment of your body, through your emotions, through your intuition, and from your spirit guides to assist you in discerning which past lives are for you. Okay, Spirit, which past lives have contributed to this financial and material insecurity in this life for the collective, please? All right. So for some of you, um, this is coming from a past life in Asia. So I'm not going to tap too much into the energies of these because, again, I want you to resonate with them. There's not much to really channel because I'm not doing an actual past life reading. I just want to get an indication that might help you to unlock something within yourself so that you can possibly move past it or go in meditation or contemplation, or any kind of regression that you're able to do to go back into past lives, to any of these past lives, to possibly heal the root cause of these things. Okay. All right. So then we've got persecution and inquisition. Oh, yep. And then we've got Celtic. So for some of you, this is going back quite far. And then we've got ships, which is an interesting one. So many of the people who did work on ships, um, they were people who did not have a lot of money. They were people who lived in poverty, and that lifestyle in itself was quite unstable. There were only a lot of times, I mean, you can only go out on the ships during good weather and good seasons. And so there was a lot of instability in that sector, right? And not only that, a lot of the poorest people would get jobs on ships. I'm not talking about the higher ups, I'm talking about everybody else who manned the ship and did the cooking and the cleaning of the ship and, fought the wars. And so for some of you, that goes back to this time. For others of you, this could have to do, I'm getting with the Celtic cross here, this could have to do with some sort of um, vows that you've taken. I'm also getting that with this persecution and inquisition, because that was a very difficult time where your gifts and abilities, this may be tied into your own gifts and abilities and understanding how you can make money from that, but without how to balance that out, right? Because you may have like a witch wound, or that's what people refer to it as. And that's when your psychic abilities or your intuitive abilities or your abilities as a healer would have been persecuted. But not just that. I mean, persecution happened in many different ways, but often it had to do with religious wars, right? People who are different, even different cultures coming in and persecuting other cultures, right? So if this does trigger something within you, like think about it and reflect on it or even meditate on that and see how that may apply. Same question, Spirit. We'll just get some cards for the collective to get a idea of which past lives this pattern may have stemmed from. Okay. Yeah. So again, medicine woman or man. Sorry, I wasn't showing you the cards. That makes total sense. As we were just talking about cultures and religions coming in to other countries and taking away, persecuting their religions, their ways of living, um, taking that away from them and persecuting, especially the medicine man or medicine woman, the matriarch or the patriarch of specific communities or religions would have been quite often the first to be taken out because they were the ones who were guiding, right? They were the elders of the communities. They had all of the oral history. They had all of the information that would teach the next generations. And so quite often, um, people would have been persecuted not only from a religious stance, but also from a intuitive or healing ability position, right? So, all right, Spirit, where did this financial and material insecurity begin? Collective. Hmm. Okay, so interesting. We got this card forgiveness. And now I'm hearing from Spirit, like for some of you, there was a inability to forgive, which contributed to holding on to this pattern. Because many of you were persecuted or looked down upon based on your class, because many of you were treated so horribly because of like in a lot of countries and even like still today, but in the past, there was a class system in a lot of cultures, right? And so when other foreign tribes or cultures or people would come in and decimate a culture or take away the people who they thought were powerful or who could guide or who had the wisdom to teach the next generations, then they would decimate them and often decimate whole societies, whole cultures. And so what I heard when I pulled this card was that, and I have goosebumps right now, is that what kept this pattern alive in this life was the inability to forgive what happened to you in a past life. And so it's creating the financial insecurity right now in this lifetime, which is repeating in a different way, but I'm hearing with similar trends. And so, um, that makes sense why Archangel Raphael is here and the angel of love is here because and I talked about forgiveness, which is really interesting now. I'm just thinking about that. Because this forgiveness is not just about forgiving yourself and forgiving what's led you to this point now. It goes so much deeper. It goes into your past lives. And the inability to forgive what was done to you or your civilization at that time by another or others left you with this bitterness, with a closed heart, with some sort of wall and rigidity around your heart chakra, around money, because money is a reflection of your love, right? Abundance and love operate on the same frequency. And so when we're holding on to a grudge from a past life, that sure does make it really hard to really accept the abundance because it's not only about holding on to a grudge, bitterness, resentment. It is what it's doing in this life is it's conditioned certain experiences to come into your life, like the storm, that reaffirm certain belief systems. And the belief systems that I was hearing were, um, now I lost it. What was it again, Spirit? Unworthiness. So, because some of you were persecuted and taken off the planet at that time, you may have this wound of feeling unworthy to receive. And others of you, like I said, a witch wound, right? But that could be in any culture. For others of you, I'm getting a lapse. Hold on. My connection is a little low today, apparently. Oh, they just said, okay, it's not my connection. It is my listening. Pardon me. All right, Spirit, what is it that you want to say here? Oh, and I just heard that for some of you, there may have been you because of the position that you were in, regardless if you had like actual money transactions or if you were in a culture at a time where you were just trading and using the barter system, because of your position in those past lives, there seems to be some sort of blockage or area of your life where it's being manifested as unsafe, unsafe to accept the money or abundance into your life. So it's almost like this self-sabotaging behavior, but because you didn't recognize possibly where it is coming from, that there is a feeling of this exchange of material and financial resources and abundance and security. There is a residual wound that has informed you in this life that it is unsafe to have that exchange, to work your way up the ladder. Oh, ooh, yeah, big time goosebumps. To actually climb that ladder and break through the barrier of financial difficulty or to receive abundance. And it is because of what happened to you in a past life, and the position that you were in as a higher up, that this wound was developed. And so it's created like a fear. And every time that you try to break beyond that barrier, you'll find that you're self-sabotaging yourself. And instead, you find yourself back in this position where you are in some sort of financial storm, some insecurity storm materially, right? And it is this wound that you're being asked to look at and forgive as well. So that's really interesting. So forgiveness is a big thing right now, and I'm hearing that, the most important thing to forgive right now with regards to your finances is these parts of you that are wounded. There may be more wounded parts of you that are manifesting as something different in this lifetime, but they're asking you to reflect on that to see what it is and how that might be manifesting for you. And then practice this forgiveness towards that past self for holding on to that holding on to that pain, because that's what it was, in a lot of these situations, you're holding on to the pain of what happened to you in those past lives. And and it's carrying through into this life to create like a feeling of unworthiness or fear of breaking through that barrier, that financial barrier. So that's going to be really important to forgive yourself in this lifetime again, as we discussed at the beginning of the reading, as well as in your past lifetime. Spirit, can you give us okay. Thank you. Okay, so we have monk or nun. So definitely I was picking up on vows. And monks, nuns, they take a vow quite often of poverty among many other different types of vows, but since we're talking about finances here, this would be a vow of poverty, right? To be taken care of by the community when the church was operating in quite a different way. In some countries, monks, right, they're still taken care of by the community in that way. But in our northern hemisphere, it's quite different these days. But if you have lived a past life where you have taken one of these vows, or any other vow as a monk or a nun. If this resonates with you, you may have other vows that you may want to look at too. And so it's going to be really important to break those contracts. Whatever contracts that you had, if this one resonates with you deeply, then you may want to consider actually working with spirit, working with your spirit team, and confirmation verb, excuse me, two of them. My goodness. Working with spirit to break these vows themselves. So, um, yeah, I guess, it's easier said than done sometimes, but it's going to be different for each of you. So apply it as it fits, and you can look up different things online to help you with that. If you're not sure on how to do the energetics or how to work in the ethereal, the 5D, in order to tear up these contracts, then you might want to look up some videos on how to do that. That'll really help you, or how to utilize your energy in that way. That'll be very helpful for you. But yeah, any vows that you've taken, you definitely want to consider not only destroying those vows and um, changing that, but also working with your belief system around that because you're going to have ingrained beliefs about the exchange of abundance or money for your talents, gifts, and abilities too. Like I said, that witch wound is not much different than this in itself. So there's going to be some sort of limiting beliefs or ideas around whether you should accept money for your gifts and your talents and abilities, especially if they are to do with if you've been raised in any kind of religion in this lifetime, then the indoctrination into that belief is going to be even harder, right? Or more limiting. I shouldn't say harder, but it's going to be or going to feel more limiting and restrictive at this time. Okay, and then we have transportation. So you may have worked on a railroad, you may have, oh, okay. What I just heard was, for those who are resonating with this, you were often the people who were loading luggage, doing kind of the grunt work. So a lot of the very, very, very low paying jobs. A lot of these people who traveled on these coaches, these stage coaches, who did work in service of the people who could afford to take the train, they were, they often lived on these trains. And then when the trains were not operating, they didn't really have shelter or security or anything like that. Okay. So, a lot of these people who were operating the trains at that time, who were um, doing the grunt work, I guess if you want to call it, they were not treated well. They did not have financial security. They did not have material security. So if this resonates with you, or if you come from a long line of people who worked on the railroad, and I can speak for that, there are people in my bloodline who worked on the railroad for quite some time here. So, yeah, this is something that you're going to want to investigate as to whether or not this has created some sort of belief system for you that is currently affecting you now. All right, I think we'll get two more cards, Spirit, on this. Where where did the financial and material insecurity start for the collective right now? Where did it begin? Yes, two or three more. There's one. That's one. And here, one more. Oh, okay, wow. We're going to take that one. Okay. Oh, I think I might have just cleaned up the one. Who was that it? Okay, I'm just gonna go with that one. Everything works out for a reason the way it does, so I'm going to trust that and go with it. Oh, wow. Interesting. Okay, so we have scribe or writer. Again, these would have been people who were on the low end. I mean, they would have been hired into, um, well, it depends. The scribe could have been within the church, right? It could have been within some organized religion. It could have been in Asia, a monk. So these people would have been apprenticing still, the scribes, or would have had good notary skills, but maybe were on some lower end depending on where it falls, right? Because it's not always the case when it comes to all religions. So I'm not going to blanket that statement. But if you were a scribe for, say, the king or the queen, or you were a scribe for somebody who was higher up, you would have had a better quality of life than most peasants, most people. However, you still would have been treated not so great, right? And, it could be that possibly whatever it was that you were writing down, so say like secret notes to somebody that you shouldn't have been, you know, that possibly if you had the choice, you would have not chosen to participate in that action, but because of the situation or the circumstances, you felt as though you had no choice, or it may have been death for you, or out on the streets with the peasants for you. So that's something to consider that was channeled through specifically, obviously, for somebody. So this could be a wound around your own integrity, around feeling trapped between a rock and a hard place, having to make decisions that you weren't comfortable with, or it could be just the way that you were treated and resentment may have built up, right? Then we've got karmic relationships. So, very commonly, in a lot of cultures, in a lot of religions, in a lot of places around the world, um, these types of relationships happen everywhere. But if we're talking about past lives, we're talking about possibly going back into a time where specific groups of people, specific cultures, and specific genders were treated more as property or less than because of a class system or because of your religion or your background or your ethnicity, right? It could have to do with all kinds of things. And so when I see this card, I don't just see it as a romantic relationship, but it could be. It could be that you were treated as though you were owned as property, not allowed to have money, and so the idea of this exchange of money, of receiving abundance, of being independent on your own could be greatly affecting you, right? If this has to do, if you've lived this kind of relationship where you were financially abused or money had always been controlled within relationships, that's a good indication that there is a past life to do with these karmic relationships. However, it doesn't just come from that. It does also come from, as I said, your ethnicity, your class, your culture, your religion, how were you raised? So if you've experienced things in this lifetime, that's going to give you some indication at least as to where this may be stemming from, or that it does stem from your past, from some sort of karmic relationship. And this could be relationship within your family. This could be relationship with the church. This could be the belief systems you were indoctrinated into. Again, it can apply very widely across many different things. So take it as it resonates. And then we have Atlantis. So I think there's a common misconception that, in Atlantis, everything was awesome, everything was perfect, and everybody had everything that they could ever want, and nobody wanted for anything. And to a degree, that is true. There was probably more equity and more balance. But from my understanding, there was also a lot of darkness because of that that was brought into the situation where people had, and people are people. What do people do when left to their own devices? A lot of people who aren't spiritually uplifted or aligned fully still exist, and they aren't necessarily interested in attaining that for themselves, just like today, right? There are those who are not walking this path. There are those who couldn't be bothered to look within. There are those who really aren't interested in healing in this lifetime, and that's fine. But something about this goes really far back for one or two, or maybe a few of you. And it goes back to the time of Atlantis. And so you're going to want to identify um, what about that culture or your understanding of the culture is creating lack within you now. And that could come right back down to the system of not actually using money or currency in the way that we're using it now. Because from what my spirit team is saying, there wasn't really that kind of system. There was like a bartering, and everybody had access to things, but maybe there's something that happened. Maybe you were denied by somebody for something that you needed, and it could be as simple as that, that, you were trying to barter or trade with somebody, but that person, for some reason, did not value what it is that you were bringing to the table. And so it could be as simple as something like that. So I'm going to point that out. It's not all doom and gloom. It's not all the really difficult things, but it could be as simple as that. And so you may have several lifetimes here that are resonating with you. or that will. And you may just have one. So try to go back and do some healing work and closing contracts and forgiving the people in your past as well as yourself so that you can begin to feel worthy. And that's another issue that's coming up is feeling worthy of actually receiving that money is one of the big key features of this. And so finding healing for all of the different things that have come through or that are going to come through as you sit with this reading and that come up, forgiving each thing as it comes up, as you explore deeper, as you go into it more and more and more. Okay? I'm just going to clear the energy here. Okay, I also just heard outcasted. So possibly a lot of this pertains to feeling outcasted from a society, from a class, from a group, from a culture, from the church, from your community. This could be happening in this lifetime as well. So you might have some resonance with that that is pertaining to a past life as well. So interesting that that's coming through, but that is for somebody. So